we decided what we'd do is we'd build a platform that was sort of the anti-social media so that people could have
Anti-social
conversations
media.
with each other. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It's called deliberation.io. It's all open free. You can see the science if you're interested. It has code. You can
So
just take the code.
it fosters more dialogue instead of
He does
I'm going to
2 or
browbeat
3.
you down type of thing. Welcome to Embracing Digital Transformation, where we explore how people, process, policy, and technology drive effective change. This is Dr. Darren, Chief Enterprise Architect, Educator, Author, and most importantly, your host. On this episode, why AI supercharges collective learning and community insight with technology and social visionary, Dr. Sandy Pentland. Sandy, welcome to the show.
Glad to be here. Looking forward to a good conversation.
Yeah, I was excited. I went back and looked at my notes, and I remember our conversation. This should be an interesting topic today
We
on
hope so.
data privacy, AI, all the craziness that's out there today.
Yep.
But before we get started, everyone that listens to my show knows that I only have superheroes on the show, and every
I'll do my
superhero has a
best, yeah.
background story.
Yeah.
So, Sandy, what's your origin story? What's your background story?
Well, I grew up in Michigan, in Ann Arbor, and but decided to go see the big world and have traveled around. I'm faculty at MIT, helped put together the Media Lab, which a lot of people have heard of, and now I'm at Stanford helping them with human-centered AI. So AI that's good for us, not replacing us. And I think that the story is really, we got started thinking about technology and what it was going to do to people, things that we're going to like wear, little things like the little thing I have on, or, these glasses, all sorts of technology on our bodies. And we got very concerned about who owns the data and what's going to be done with this, and is it going to make us like little androids walking around? And that's been a theme for quite a while. So and particularly being in the context that I was in, I could see that a lot of the stories we tell ourselves about people, that were rational and we work things out, are just bogus. Right? We actually, most of what we do, most of what we think comes from the surrounding culture, the communities we're part of, and we're lost most of the time. We're trying stuff out. And so you have to think of people really more as searching for answers in this context of a bunch of people who are, share the same sort of problems with you, and you can learn from them and they can learn from you, and we're all just trying to get by. And that's not the normal attitude or story that academics like to tell. They like to tell that, we're logical and so forth. But not so much.
Well, have you seen that specifically because you've seen it probably magnified with social media? Because social media, everyone says, hey, social media is like an echo chamber.
Yeah.
But it's an echo chamber for a reason, right? It's the reason communities are formed. There's some commonality, right?
That's right. Yeah, no, I mean, that echo chamber is how you share ideas with people. The title of my book is Shared Wisdom. That's how you come to a view of the world, which is your community's wisdom about the world. Doesn't mean it's true, just means it's what you all believe. But if you are in a community, like in social media nowadays, where you have these overly loud voices, people that are just screaming, right? Like people with lots and lots of followers, or people who make money off of being angry, right? And collecting more sort of ears and eyeballs. That just destroys any sense of conversation with people. Everybody thinks about the people with the loud voices who are being paid to be angry. We've done a big experiment at Stanford where we had tens of thousands of people thinking about very, very contentious things like gun control and abortion and so forth. And if you ask people about it, they'll say, oh, those people on the other side, they're crazy, right? But both sides believe that. In fact, both sides actually agree with each other almost completely. It's quite amazing, except for the loud guys on the edges. So when you look out, you see, oh, what are those other guys like? Well, the person you see, of course, is the one who's the loud voice who's getting paid to be
Right,
angry,
right.
right? So they're all like that. Well, there are crazy people out there, but most people are like you and me, and there's some sort of just a little bit of sort of variation in the weight and the circumstance, and depends on our position in life. Um, and so we the social media amplifies the wrong things. If you actually have someplace where you don't have those overly loud voices, and people can be restricted to sort of thinking about the problem, not getting distracted about 50 different things, not getting into fights, then you can have really good conversations with people. And that actually gets to the first thing I wanted to sort of mention is we decided what we'd do is we'd build a platform that was sort of the anti-social media so that people could have
Anti-social
conversations
media.
with each other. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It's called deliberation.io. It's all open free. You can see the science if you're interested. It has code. It
So
just takes code.
it fosters more dialogue instead of
It does
I'm going to
two or
browbeat
three.
you down type of
Yeah, it
thing.
does two or three things. One is you can put comments in, but you can't like have a reply to somebody else's comments. All the comments go in a common space. Okay.
Okay.
Um, and you can't tell like who put them there. And then there's a visualization of what all the comments are. So you can see where you are relative to everybody else. And you can see the crazy people out at the edge. And you can see generally that you're in the middle, like with everybody else. And then we've added more recently some AI to it because that's all about AI,
Oh, you
right?
have to add AI, right? I
Gotta
mean,
have to. Yeah, exactly. Right. Although we're not selling anything, we're just trying to figure out how to do this right. Um, and what the AI does, we decided AIs, make mistakes. They're not really in the game. They're not human. They don't have day-to-day problems like we do. So we limited it to being like a mediator or somebody who just listens and feeds things back, a mirror. And so it'll say things like, I hear you people saying this, but some other people are saying that. What that little bit of feedback from the AI does is it keeps people focused on the discussion. And
oh,
it,
interesting.
yeah, right. Because people are actually pretty good. This is what we do as a species. Way back hundreds of thousands of years ago, we sit around the campfire talking. And we talk about what did we see? What do we do? What should we do tomorrow? That's us, right? It's just, if you tried to do that with, a bullhorn going in your ear, it wouldn't work so well.
Right.
So we give that sort of around the campfire thing. And what's interesting is that, like, for instance, we did a town hall, we're doing a couple of town halls with the city of Washington, D.C. And what the goal here is to hear what regular people think, not the politicians, right? And, the
Can
person
you do
would,
that in DC?
I,
Can you have regular
it
are there
turns
regular
out
people in
that all the
DC?
politicians live in one tiny area, and
Oh, well, that's
you can
good.
avoid them, right? Um, yeah, who knew? Um, anyway, so what we asked them is what would they like to see AI doing to make government better? And you know what they answered? They answered that they would like to have an AI that they owned to fight back against all the complexity of government. I mean, keeping track of them, all that paperwork and the plans and what's
Oh,
due, and
interesting.
it's like, oh yeah, I want one of those. I want something that helps me, and we call that an AI buddy. And we have a research program called loyalagents.org with consumer reports, which is interesting because that's
Oh,
another
interesting.
sort of thing. It's like there's all these scams out there. Who's going to protect you? Well, we're building an open source free thing that will help individuals make their own decisions and
That
allow
help
some
to navigate the complexity that's out there.
yeah, because it's crazy. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
I'm a fairly educated guy. I look in this stuff, I work on it, I work with people. I can't do it. It's just too complicated and it changes all the time.
Yeah.
So, I could really sympathize with people who are, have young kids and maybe they're juggling a job and stuff like that. And, yeah, they need some help. So who's building something that helps them deal with the world? So that's our loyal agents program.
Well,
And I
this
can
is
tell you
this
more
is
about
really
that if you want. Yeah,
yeah. I want to go back a little bit to the community thing because um, social media, I think, has just made us more disconnected in our community,
that's
but at the
right.
same time, somewhat connected. But I can do it from a distance, so it's safe. Where if I go down to the local pickleball courts, there's a community that's built up there, but you don't have the loud, brash stuff that you have on social media because there's human contact there, right?
Yeah,
So
people have reputations and they know if they act like an
well,
a-hole
and
that
I
they're
think
going to
people are
be like
afraid,
ostracized,
if
right?
I elevate things, it may turn into a fist fight, like in the good old days, right? Back in the Wild West here in California, right? They
Yeah,
just
right. Yeah.
settle it in the streets at high noon, right?
Yep.
um, so I think people when they're in person, they tend to behave better.
Yeah, I think
If
that's
they're in
absolutely.
that community. Have you seen the same thing in your guys' research?
Yeah, I mean, so people are quite happy to behave pleasantly. They just need to be uh, feel like they're in a place that's safe, feel like they're in a place where they're being heard, they're recognized, and also it has to be a community. A community means people with shared interests, shared problems. Okay, it's often
Gotcha.
a physical community because the traffic in the neighborhood affects everybody in the neighborhood. There's your community, but it can also be a community of interest or a community that has particular problems. Even things like, I have a rare disease or I'm in this weird situation. What do other people do? Um, and then you're going to have conversations that actually benefit everybody, just like 100,000 years ago around the campfire. You have conversations that helps everybody not get eaten by the lions and keeps the bellies full. Um, and uh, so people like that. Our social media and our electronic systems in general, like government systems, purchase systems, um, have forgotten completely about this notion of community.
Of
You're either an
community.
individual, in which case it's you're this little tiny person in front of the great big machine, right?
Right.
And in this ocean of other people that you don't know, so it's just sort of odd place to be. Um, or you're all little identical robots. They just treat you exactly the same, right? So one of those two, either it's all aimed right at you using your data to hit you as well as they can, or it's something where just everybody gets the same deal. But that's not fair. I mean, that's not about communities. Different communities need different things. Uh, a lot of what allows us to do things is having people to help us do it, which are people who think the same things, have the same problems, have the same idea about how to solve those problems. That's collective action. That's how you keep things going forward. And we need to add that community notion back in.
Well, I mean, when discussion boards first came out, bulletin boards back in the 80s and 90s,
Yeah,
it was kind of community based, right? Because you would
that's
sign
right.
up for a bulletin board for, electronic enthusiasts, right?
Yeah.
For example,
No,
right?
originally it was that way. And
But we've
some
moved
things
away
like
from it.
subreddits are a little bit that way, but we've moved
Yeah,
away from
right.
it because of advertising, basically. Right? Advertisers
Gotcha.
want to
That
reach
makes
as
sense.
many people as possible. They don't want you to be different. They want you to all buy the same stuff.
The same
So,
stuff. Yeah.
yeah.
So, you were mentioning with these communities now, you now have an AI acting as a moderator. how have you seen that? Is that working well, where it's keeping the
Yeah,
community somewhat cohesive?
it works surprisingly well. People are respectful. They have good ideas. One of the key things is they learn what other people think because they get to see all the other comments, even if they don't agree with you. It's not like the echo chamber thing you get on most social media. And so you learn that there's a range of opinions, and sometimes they have a good point. And you also learn that if you're going to get anything done, you can't be one of the crazy guys because you know nobody's going to follow you. And so what we see is people have these sort of discussions with this little moderation engine to sort of help summarize things. And they end up much more uh, on the same page than they were to begin with. And perhaps even more importantly, they're much more aware of their community than they were before. So they're much less polarized, for instance. Um,
Wow.
that,
So
yeah,
has anyone brought up the fact that we've got an AI basically, um, not coaching, but refereeing? I don't know what the right word is. Is
moderating.
it
In our case,
moderating?
moderating. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there any concern that you have or that I've got an AI now? Because all
Well,
AIs are
yeah,
biased, right? There, in some way, there's
sure.
some bias. So, is there
But
any
what
concern
so
that it's
we
injecting
haven't
itself
seen it because we're not asking the AI what should we do or what are the facts.
bias? Oh,
That's where you see all this bias
that's where
stuff,
you see the
right?
bias,
Right?
right?
Because it has all this stuff, all this data built into it, right? We're just asking it to be a mirror for what the people are saying. So you can see if it's being a good mirror or not, because you can see the comments and you
Yeah,
see
yeah,
what
yeah.
the AI does as summaries, and they're pretty good at that. And part of the reason is that they're not human. They don't have skin in the game, right? They don't have the emotional elements to it. They don't have lots of things. So they're actually not too bad as a mirror, right? And it seems to work. In fact, when we ask people, do you prefer the human moderator or no moderator to the AI one? It's just overwhelmingly they prefer the AI one.
I like what you said, there's no skin in the game, because I mean, that's one of the first kind of tenets of a moderator is, "Hey, I have nothing here to gain." But as a human, that's really
That's right.
hard, right?
That's right. Yeah. No, everybody has anything we're talking about. You likely have skin in the game,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Alright, so this is really cool. A great use of AI that I've never thought of, that maybe I can actually use. I chair, some open group standard, organizations, and it'd be kinda cool to have an AI sit there and, with no skin in the game, make sure that people are understanding each other. Because
well, yeah,
sometimes we
yeah,
miss,
no,
right?
everybody does this. It is actually so we see people using it's all open code. You can just use it, right? It's not a
Right.
proprietary thing. We see people using it in teaching, like the class discusses something. We see it, people using it in business where those endless meetings. It actually facilitates the meeting quite a bit. So yeah, it's a pretty useful thing, and it doesn't have a lot of the problems that AI have. But the other thing, remember the one that the people in Washington
Yeah, yeah,
D.C.
yeah,
asked
yeah,
for?
yeah,
Don't
yeah.
forget that one. So let me give you the sort of business version of that. So they
Okay.
were asking for something that helped them like defend against the government
The
to be able to,
bureaucracy.
the
Yeah.
bureaucracy, not to attack, but just to fill out all those forms and stuff.
Yeah.
So I was on a panel with chief technical officers of some very big firms, and they were talking about the difficulties of deploying AI and stuff. But one guy just offhandedly mentioned, "Oh, but we've built AI buddies for everybody," and the other guy said, "Oh yeah, sure. So what's an AI buddy?" Well, it's just a local AI, open source thing, runs on your laptop. It doesn't have to be a big thing, but it's read all the manuals that you haven't. Okay. And it reads the newsletter that you can't stand to read. And it
Uh-huh.
pays attention to all that sort of news. And so it can keep you in the loop in your organization. It can say, well, so and so is doing that over in this, right? It can remind you about things. And people it's very hard to have all the context when you're in a big organization or even any organization. So having something that's read all the manuals and can answer your questions or remind you when you want it is actually really useful and really simple to do. And the interesting thing is if it's a local thing, you own it, right? Or the
Right.
company owns
So
it.
I can put any information in there that I want.
That's right. You can have a private thing that helps you sort of stay in the loop. And companies are beginning to understand that that's actually sort of a useful thing because you have, work from home, you have offices all over the country or the world, right? And how do you keep them all, sort of engaged on the same enterprise, basically, right? They lose context, and so they go off in different directions. And this can help them do that.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, with all the changes that organizations have, there's all this tacit knowledge that's in the organization
Yeah.
that it might be captured somewhere, but unless you've been with the company a long time, you don't know, oh, the website to find out about
Yeah.
healthcare benefits is this one over here.
Right.
Or, oh, time off. Oh, how do I apply for time off?
Oh, yeah,
It's on this website over here that it's just
and then
someone didn't
the
know.
language on those websites is like, "What does that mean? Am I one of
Yeah.
those? I don't know. Is that qualified?" It's the same thing as like dealing with the bureaucracy in government. It's just you
Yeah.
need somebody to sort of be your buddy. So AI buddies, right?
AI
And
buddies.
yeah,
I love that
yeah.
that concept.
So the if you're a technical guy or you're interested in this sort of thing, you could go to the website loyalagents.org, which is us and Consumer Reports, and then a number of other little companies that are trying to do stuff like this. Um, to basically, give us a buddy to help defend against all the marketing and the scams and the bureau, and there's a number of things that are important there. It has to truly represent you. So the way, say, for instance, a doctor or a lawyer word, it can't be like, sort of underhandedly selling for somebody else, or, that's where bias can come in, right?
So
Where, yeah,
so that brings up you're talking agentic a little bit, right? They're acting on your behalf, so they become agents?
these are AI agents. That's right. Right.
Okay, alright, so that's different than just a buddy telling you, "Hey, you should look at this." This is
Yeah.
actually gonna do stuff
This
for
is
you.
now actually going to do things like, buy a blender or fill out a form for you. Yeah, and that's agentic AI, the sort of scary thing. But, you know, we're going to need it. That's like the people in Washington D.C. were saying, God, we need something to deal
Yeah.
with the
You need
bureaucracy. You
something
need
like that.
somebody to deal with all this stuff. There's going to be all those agents out there. Who's going to defend you is the question. And the big question, you put your finger on it, is um, how do you make sure that the thing that you're using represents you and not somebody else,
Right.
right? Okay, so that's called fiduciary duty, and that's why the name is loyal agents. The thing that differentiates, say, a doctor or a lawyer or something like that is what's called in law a duty of loyalty. They have to be loyal to you, and so that's a technical term in law, but it basically means they're acting on your behalf. They
On your
got your
behalf,
back.
right? For your
Yep,
best interest.
for your best interest. That's right. Yeah, and they're not asking for Walmart's best interest or Amazon's best interest.
That's so hard to tell now, right? And, because when you think of, AI so, like, if I go to a public gen AI that's out there now, I can already start seeing that they're suggesting things from
That's right.
advertisers.
That's
We're
right.
already starting to see it.
So like
So
you look at Chat GPT, you can say buy something, but the first place it goes is always Walmart.
yep. Yeah, I
Oh,
noticed
okay.
that. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
so but these are private gen AIs that you're talking about.
that's right. Yeah.
Private they're mine. I can tell that I always like to shop at Winco
Yes.
down the street. I
And
always
nobody
like to
else needs
shop
to
at
know about that, right?
and no
Because
one else
this
needs to know about.
stays in your little bailiwick, right?
Wow, I mean, this is very contrary to the way things are moving right now, where big corporations have all my data they advertise, they dictate what I get. This is turning the tables on them a little bit.
That's exactly right. We have an opportunity. I mean, the agentic step, everyone goes, this is scary, right? But it's an opportunity to take back some control, because now if you have this agent that's going to sort of be trying to shop for you and do things, it doesn't have to tell those people all this data. It can just say, tell me the specs, right? Tell me the price, tell me this. And then it sort of thinks with your preferences privately, right, about what will be good for you, right? Like if you got two kids, you probably don't want a two-seater car because where are you going to put the kids, right? Etc. Those sorts of things. You don't need to share that, right? Because your agent already has that sort of built in, and it's not sharing data. So it's really a chance for, user control, for privacy, for all sorts of things to come into a new sort of efficacy to be able to change this sort of new web. But it has to happen, um, where people actually have these agents, that they adopt them, that they use them, and there needs to be some sort of economic model with that, because otherwise it's just going to be too easy to take Walmart's or OpenAI's model, which is going to have biases in there. And so the way I think about it, and this is why I approached Consumer Reports, is you need a band of people, a community who have shared values about, what's a good thing to buy, what's a bad thing to buy, those sorts of things. And together they can trade notes about, I bought one of these blenders and it broke immediately, or I bought this and this is the best thing
Oh,
ever.
interesting.
And so it's a little bit like Yelp or some of those other rating things,
Yeah.
but this is a private thing among a co-op, among a group of people who have banded together to sort of help them each make, better decisions. Right?
So what you're talking about is something I've heard about or kind of surmised would exist, but you brought it to the forefront, which are community Gen AIs.
That's right.
Um,
That's right. This is
right.
a community Gen AI. Exactly.
Right.
Right.
And it's a closed community. You get to decide as a community who's in your community or not.
Yeah. And if you
Um,
want to be in this community or the next one over,
then
right? Yeah,
yeah, or the
exactly.
next one over. This is really interesting because I normally we think of those community Gen AIs like in medicine or in law or in a professional group. You're talking about co-ops, which could be any. I could start a co-op here in my town of Folsom, California,
Yeah.
and say,
Yeah.
hey, here's a co-op of high-tech people living in Folsom, California. We start our own little co-op. Our agents can talk to each other. They can share information with each other.
Yeah. About how
Um,
are the local stores and the local schools and all that sort of stuff, where um, you're sharing what you feel is good for the community. You don't have to share things, and you own it, and you're sort of immune in that sense from the bias. America has had co-ops forever.
oh
Uh,
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, it's agricultural co-ops that formed some of the first banks that were outside of New York City and became competitors to the big banks on the East Coast. It's those same co-ops later that did the electrification of America. You hear about the government doing it, but most of the electric grid was built by co-ops, right?
That's
And credit
amazing.
unions are exactly the same type of a thing,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
usually, most of them. So we have a tradition of doing this, and it's happens every time the people feel like they're being exploited by the big guys, and they band together and operationalize the things you can do as a collective. And this is the thing you can do as collective, is you can share tips about what works and what doesn't work with people who have the same sort of circumstances as you.
Is there any concern around security in this play, and how do I handle
Yeah.
security in like
So
a community
so
gen?
yeah, I mean, so again, look at the website loyalagents.org, because we
Okay.
talk about that. The you have to have security. You have to know that this is something that's authorized by a real human. That's not some bot doing something. Um, but those are problems that we've had for a long time. And back in the day, we set up things like OpenID, which is something you don't
Oh
even
yeah,
know about, right? Maybe, oh, you do. Okay, well, good.
I
Most
do. No,
people,
I know about OpenID. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so we help set that up, and it's the thing that makes sure that your phone connects to the right numbers, and you
Yep.
use it all the time. You're just not aware of it. And so we're working with them to extend it to these agent worlds. There's papers out of there about that now. It's not that hard. It's we're taking the security stuff we have now, just moving it to the agentic world, which
Into
is a
the
little
agentic
different.
world. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you need to know something. There's some legal parts which you need to have to say this really represents that person. But interestingly, again, we now have that legal stuff for humans. The doctor really has to, do things in your best interest, not his best interest. Um, and we just have to tune it up so that it works for software agents too. And so we're busy doing that with Stanford Law School and various other sort of people that are helping us. And then the final thing is you have to have these community. You have to have individuals or communities where you have some way of uh, writing down what the preferences are. Like you don't want to waste money, you don't want to buy things that break instantly. You want to stay away from scams. All of those are preferences we have. You don't have to do but you'd be nuts not to. And people might decide to be more or less energy efficient. This is really important, carbon capture or whatever.
Right.
Or they might be very concerned about kids and things that happen around and to kids. And those are preferences. And so if you have a software agent that's, filling out forms or, screening things so you don't get scammed and stuff, it has to know enough about you to know what it ought to do and
Well,
when
and
to
this has been
ask.
the concern that people have had, right? Why they don't want to share because they don't want to be advertised to. They don't want a
Right.
big corporation knowing so much about them. So
That's
this
right.
gives an opportunity for the agent to know all this stuff and
That's right.
to go
Yeah,
out and represent you without saying who you are per se, right?
that's right.
Or
Yeah,
divulging too much information.
yeah. And there's little things in there, like for instance, sometimes websites will say, we don't want any bots, so we don't want any agents. But if an agent actually legally represents you, they can't do that. It is you, right? For all legal
It's
intents and
interesting.
purposes. So, like for instance, recently Amazon sued Perplexity, I think, because Perplexity's bots were looking at Amazon sites. And
Yeah,
they
yeah.
want their own bots to do it to sell you more Amazon stuff, right? Uh, Surprise. Um, but if you have this sort of legal determination of fiduciary representation, then it's just you doing it. You have a little bit of software, but you have the web
That's
browser
interesting.
anyhow, right? And so I think that will work. There might be some legal battles about it, but I think we're on the good side there. I mean, the side that will work. Um, so again, putting a little bit more power back in people's hands.
What what guardrails do you have that an agent just doesn't go hog wild crazy? Um,
So
because I in my
yeah,
mind, I'm like, well, should it check with me before it does anything over like a threshold? If you're going to spend more than $50, you need to check with me.
yeah.
But if I'm doing that, then I'm, yeah, I guess it's still, I want to use these bots to get work done for me that I don't want to worry about, right? I want to
Yeah.
focus on things I want to focus on,
So
hopefully
there's a
more value.
Yeah, so there's a couple things, right, that you brought up. One is you want some way of rating bots, right? Like what software are you going to use, right? And sort of best practice for what is safest and most effective. So those are things that you need to sort of establish, and that's of course what we're working on with other people. Um, and you need to be able to have ways of communicating bots and the agents, AI agents, to communicate with other agents. Because remember, they're not talking to people; They're talking to
Right. They're talking
Amazon's
to,
agent or something.
yeah.
So there's already things like MCP, which is the way agents
Hmm.
could talk to agents, and so we're developing HCP, which is the way that humans talk to agents,
Talk to
and
agents. Interesting.
right, so that you can say, I want to buy something but not more than $100, right? Or I want something and here's my preferences and so forth, and that can constrain what the agent can do. And it's the simple part
Do you,
is fairly simple to do. The really complicated things where you're buying things overseas and blah blah blah, that gets a little more complicated. But it's no more complicated than current sort of logistics chains and things like that.
do you see pressure being put on e-commerce sites to accommodate more
Oh
and more agents? Because right
yeah,
now they put up, you know, they'll put up a verified wall to prevent, agents from getting in. Um, right? Do you see those walls breaking down? Because they may miss out. If I'm using an AI buddy and an agent, then and I can't hit your website, then you know
yeah.
what?
Then you
You're
don't
out of
sell
luck, right?
stuff, right?
Then
Yeah,
you don't
yeah.
sell stuff, right?
That's right. Yeah. So there's this tension there, and people who think about the ad economy are of the opinion that the spread of agents like this is going to get rid of a lot of the advertising because the agent doesn't look at the ad. What is that about, right? The agent checks the specs and the price, right, and the reputation with other people
So
who
that's
bought
going to be
there.
interesting because you will have marketing and you will have ads, but they'll be geared towards AI visibility more than human visibility in that case.
Well, and remember, yeah, yeah, but remember also the agents can check a lot of things. It's like you and I get tired. We
Yeah,
want
you're
to
right.
buy
We do.
something. We look at three different things, okay, and they have like bold
No, oh,
claims that
that's good
aren't.
enough. I'll just get that one. Yeah,
That's right. Well, AI agents could be a lot better because they don't
that
get
is
tired
true.
the same way. And if you're in a co-op, then you have all the eyeballs of all the people in the co-op looking at these things too. So you actually get a great deal of insight about what's good. And it's expected, first of all, that prices for things will tend to converge because there's going to be
Well,
comparison.
that's normal economics, right?
That's right. Absolutely. It is also expected that advertising for inexpensive or sort of regular types of things may disappear because most of it will be bought by agents. On the other hand, at the very high end, like you're buying a car or a house, you're going to see a very different sort of behavior where maybe your agent collects facts about houses for sale or houses that have been sold recently and, arranges it in a way for you to understand, helps you understand. And that's something where it really has to be a fiduciary representing your interests, not some realtor, right? But it's interesting because that's what realtors are supposed to do, and everybody knows
Yeah, but they
realtors.
don't,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can imagine um, that will cause a bit of a revolution in that industry. Same thing with
Oh, yeah.
cars. I mean, cars. How do you really compare them? I mean, Consumer Reports tests them. Other people, car and driver, test them, and so
Right.
forth.
Yeah.
Um, but a lot of that's going to end up happening through agents in the future because they're going to be able to say, well, in our co-op, let's say Consumer Reports, right? We have 4,000 people who bought Chevy, blah blah blah, right? And here's the repair records, and here's the
And here's all the
so
info,
yeah,
which is
yeah,
stuff that we do today. It takes a lot of our time to do all that
that's right,
research.
that's right. So now you get a lot more research about things, so you can make better decisions and figure out which ones are lemons or scams. Yeah.
Yeah,
So that's
interesting.
that's the hope, and it's the first time that we've had that sort of hope since sort of the beginning of the
The
web,
internet.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, so web beginning, it's like, oh gosh, you can see all these things in better choice and so forth, and very quickly it became centralized and advertising driven, And so now we have another chance.
Yeah, but
Let's see what we can
eventually the
do.
advertiser guys, they're smart. They're going to
Yeah,
figure
yeah.
out something,
They make a
right?
lot of money off this. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they sure
Exactly.
do.
Yeah. So
So
it's not clear how the battle will work, but it is clear that we better work on our side of it now
yeah.
before they get a hold of it and completely shut it down.
So do you think that one concern that a lot of people have is that AI agents and things like this is going to drive even more and more isolation of individuals, talking to each other and communicating with each other, because there's no need. My agent takes care of things for me now. So I'm because I already see it in the young generation. If I ask my younger kids, they're all in their young adults now. But if I ask them to call someone, it's like, call them.
Yeah. What are you
You want me
talking
to
about?
talk to someone?
Yeah,
No, they want to text them, right? Because
that's
there's a
right.
disconnect, right? Do
Well,
you think that this is
that's
going to cause even a further disconnect?
it. It will change it. Hopefully, I mean, one of the things that, for instance, in the book I talk about most is that we've done these things that just ignore the sense of community. Right? You're either an isolated individual or you're all exactly the same. So it's either
Right.
federal law, everybody does exactly
Everyone does
this,
this,
or
yeah.
you're this lonely person in the midst of nothing. And actually humans are primarily driven by community. And that's where we get our culture. That is culture. That's how we come up with innovations, things like that. And it's not present in most of these technologies. So it is something that we have to keep in mind and something to do. So, for instance, the deliberation thing is intended to get people to talk to each other.
To
It
talk
doesn't
to
tell
each other
people
again.
what to do or what to say. It is just simply a tool to help that talking together. And the AI buddy thing is, and it can be something where, it's putting you in touch. It's telling you what people want to share about their experiences, people like you sharing their experiences. So it makes you more aware of what's happening. And an interesting thing is that there are some hints that this will not end up in this desolation, isolation. For instance, if you look at um, Facebook groups, almost entirely correspond to physical places.
Yes, I've noticed that. Yeah.
I mean, so what they're doing is they're saying, oh, all the people who are, go to the basketball game on Thursday or whatever it is, right? They're part of this group, and you can talk to them by text or email or whatever. But it's a physical activity. You actually get to see the people. Reputation matters. You know, being a
Yeah.
contributor as opposed to a troll matters.
Right.
And
The trolls are kicked out pretty quick is
the
what
troll, because you can see them and
because you
whatever.
could see, yeah.
Yeah, and so that type of thing, people do that even in the face of a platform that is set up to ignore that. People manipulate it into
Manip
community, and so I think that that's why one of the reasons I like this co-op idea. It doesn't matter that you're a member of one co-op. You can be a member of many co-ops. Like you can
many,
have
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
basketball thing, right? And it's a little co-op of people that, talk and try and figure out, where's a good place to
And
go and so
and
forth.
and the AI's there to moderate and to build,
Just to
uh,
facilitate the conversation.
facilitate. Yeah. I
Yeah, I
I
mean,
I I think this is brilliant. If people wanna find out more about what you've been talking about, you've mentioned your book a couple times. Is it out on Amazon?
yep, it's out on
Shared
Amazon
Shared
and other
Wisdom, right?
Barnes and Noble. Yep, Shared Wisdom. And then there's two websites you can look at. One is deliberation.io and then loyalagents.org. And both of those are some of the things that I've been referring to. But the book is
I
out.
most
Yeah,
definitely
yeah,
will
yeah.
look those up. This is, Sandy, this has been a great discussion.
Oh, thank you.
I will totally be looking at these agents to do work for me, but sometimes I want to go do some of the research myself.
Yeah, sure.
Um, like I wanna find cheap flights. I get a thrill out of finding the cheapest flight possible. But now
My agent can do better than I can probably. So I got to go try that out and see what's
Well,
going to
that's
happen.
what I mean. If you go to a site like Kayak, it already does all that pretty much.
Yeah, but it's got its bias in there, right?
Yeah,
I
for
mean,
sure. Oh, for sure. It's selling stuff too.
yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But if I'm controlling my agent, that's even better, right?
Yeah, well, you could tell it
'Cause-
don't do X and don't do Y, right? Yeah,
yeah,
and make it
exactly.
more
So,
stuff like
well,
that.
hey, Sandy, this has been wonderful. Thanks for coming on the show.
Pleasure. Yeah, good conversation. I've enjoyed it. So,
Thanks for listening to Embracing Digital Transformation. If you enjoyed today's conversation, give us 5 stars on your favorite podcasting app or on YouTube. It really helps others discover the show. If you want to go deeper, join our exclusive community at patreon.com/embracingdigital, where we share bonus content and you can always connect with other change makers like yourself. You can always find more resources at embracingdigital.org. Until next time, keep embracing the digital transformation.